Everyone. Hi, this is Christina Caudill with Radiant Astrology, and this is the Aries Equinox Awakening. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a very beautiful ritual ceremony that we will be indulging in today. And everything about this event just came together so perfectly, even though we're in Mercury retrograde shadow, pre-shadow, right? And I just thank so many people, everyone. We've got, looks like 73 people live with us. We're broadcasting on the Radiant Astrology Facebook page. And I don't know if you can feel it, but I feel the stirring, right? The stirring of the reawakening. We've had quite a long, for some of us, arduous winter and even January. I saw some things where people were saying January was a tough year, but we made it. And it felt that way, I feel like. Saturn's in Capricorn, which is calling us to really do the work. And, you know, that kind of has sort of a unsexy sort of ring to it usually, but already now that we're, you know, a couple months into this transit with Saturn and its rulership, I know I've seen myself rise to the occasion in certain areas that I never thought I could do or I was capable of. And we all have that potential. And now that the sun in the northern hemisphere is coming back to reawaken nature, this is a chance for us to start again, to start anew. It's the cosmic new year. It's the astrological new year. You know, for throughout history, we've celebrated this time of the sun entering tropical Aries as the new year, right? Because Aries symbolizes birth and rebirth, you know, the cycle of life, the eternal cycle. After any ending, there is always a new beginning of some kind. And we can just witness it throughout our lives and in nature. Even some of us are, I think, buried in snow right now up in the Northeast. I'm so sorry for all of you up there. The sun is coming, though. The sun is coming to you know, melt everything away and really encourage and nudge us awake once more. And so I just wanted to say a little hello to everyone who's joined us. We have so many people from all over. I see so many familiar names. I wanted to just make sure everyone knows that they got the PDF that goes along with this experience. I mean, we're not going to follow it to the T for this presentation. The PDF is a gift for you to take with you after this presentation, to continue to integrate what you've learned and to really integrate it into your lives as we take the momentum to move forward for this new year. And so I have some beautiful guests today. We're going to start off with, many of you probably recognize Sarah Jenkinson from Season Tide. She is my season gal. Hi, Sarah. I'll just have you just wave a little bit. And then we will move on to, we have some illustrious guests, everyone here. We've got Rebecca Gordon, who's the author of Your Body in the Stars, and she's got some really juicy tips to share with us about aligning your physical health and your spiritual and mental health. And we've got Tara All, who will be talking to us about Chiron in Aries. And I know Chiron's having a little bit of a, you know, resurgence these days, it sounds like, because Chiron, after 8 years, is changing signs. And I know I'm a Chiron in Aries natal baby, so I'm definitely eager to hear what Tara has to say about healing our soul wounds. And she really went above and beyond, like the Maverick, the Chiron Maverick, and put so much really great insight into that PDF. So make sure you check that out. And then we will conclude with some beautiful singing bowls by my lovely guest, Amelie. And we will then have James David Wade take us through an invocation of the sun. So hopefully we can get this wrapped up in a little over an hour. I don't want to rush things, although many of you know I have another event later tonight with Kai Pacha, so I don't, I don't have all night. But we definitely want to make sure that everyone really gets, you know, some inspiration to acknowledge this threshold. Right? We go through so many of our lives, and next thing we know, it's winter, and then that's the next year, and then it's the summer, and you know, and because we live inside most of the time, and we just are so used to our modern lives. But one of the things that we'll learn, especially from Sarah, is how, you know, these changes of the seasons help us to not only align our internal and external world, but also it helps us to look at the bigger picture of the cycle of life. And that is just so important, to take those moments to really assess, where am I in the arc of my life and the arc of my year, right? So let's see. First, before we go any further, before I welcome Sarah, I did want to take a look at the chart of the equinox, because the chart of the equinox, which I'll share with you, it's kind of like the birth chart of this new year, this new cosmic year. So now this is done for today, exactly when the sun entered tropical Aries, right? That's the spring equinox in the Northern Hemisphere. It's cast for Washington, D.C., which is in America. It is our capital. And so that kind of gives us sort of some insight to this year ahead. And, you know, first thing that we want to look at is the ruler of Aries, which is Mars, right? And so Mars has just entered Capricorn, and it's going to soon be transiting Saturn and Lilith and Pluto, right? So Mars is that urge, it's that trigger, it's that trigger planet that will then set off, you know, how much have we been building our own internal authority? You know, what kind of challenges to that authority are we going to face? And then when Mars gets up to Pluto, you know, that depth, that emotional depth of Pluto, you know, what really needs to change in order for us to be able to stand on solid ground in our own lives and in our society, really. I mean, this is a Cancer rising chart also. And so, you know, when we want to look at what is the feel of this chart, we tend to look at the ascendant, and it's ruled by the moon in Taurus. So here's more earth. There's quite a bit of earth that's really helping us to find some steadiness, you know, to take our time. One of the things I think I shared recently was someone had shared something about essentially, in order to really move forward in life, letting the small fights go, right? And focus only on what's really worth fighting for. And that, you know, that fighter is, you know, Mars and all this Aries, but we also have this earth energy that is saying, let's take our time, you know, let's focus on that which is worth building and that which is sustainable. And then, of course, you know, we've got all this Aries, this impulsive energy, this starting again, like it's all about me, it's what I need and what I'm going for. And what I love about this chart is we have Mercury, which is about to station retrograde. It stations retrograde in a couple of days on Thursday, and it's conjunct Venus. So, you know, Mercury in Aries, now already that's, you know, Aries is very fast, and Mercury is about the mind and about our communication. And so it could be being very direct, you know, even cutting words maybe if we're not careful. And we do need to be careful, because sometimes words can wound and you can't really take them back, or you can't take them back so easily. You know, Aries is like the arrow or even the knife if we're not careful. But with Venus there, Venus can really smooth things over. Venus can, maybe you can say what needs to be said directly, say it with a smile or say it with some charm, or it could be around our relationships and relating what needs to be said. What do I need out of this? What's in it for me, kind of thing. And, there's times where we do have to start thinking about what is in it for me and what am I ready to commit to? What am I willing to commit to? And, I can't really ignore that here on the midheaven, we have Juno conjunct Neptune and Pisces, right? And so Juno is those partnerships, significant partnerships, right? Long-term, potentially, that which we want to marry. But being in Pisces and conjunct Neptune in a water sign, there can be, it can be the dream of, a partnership, the dream marriage. But there can also be, confusion, illusion, disillusionment. All of that comes sort of with the territory with Neptune and Pisces. And so, what's missing in this chart is the air, right? The air element. There's no, it's Gemini, Aquarius, and Libra bring us that air element. So when we are lacking something, we can sometimes overcompensate for not having that element. And so what we want to do is just be conscious of, are we talking too much without any substance, right? Are we worrying too much without really it being necessary? I also like to think of when there is a lack of air, am I getting the air, the breathing space that I need? Like literally taking deep breaths, checking to see if you're in shallow breathing and you really need to take some deep breaths to calm that nervous system. Because with all this Aries and with all this pressure of Capricorn, then it can feel a little bit like pressure to get things done. I got to get it right this time. But we also want to just return to our center and know that, we're in it for the long haul with the Saturn in Capricorn. What are we here to really commit to for the long haul? And all this Aries energy can really give us that impetus to get started, to get going, right? It's both of these, Aries and Capricorn, are cardinal signs. So getting started, getting going is what they do best. But sticking to things, going all the way, that can be a little bit of a challenge. Maybe that Taurus moon can help things out. The Taurus moon is like, they say the Taurus is the ultimate procrastinator, but when it is committed and when Taurus decides it will go all the way, it can really have that sort of sticking power, that staying power, because it is a fixed sign. So that's just a little bit of this event chart, and we can talk a little bit more about that as we talk to our astrologers. Let's see. But before we get to more of the astrology, I always love to invite Sarah Jenkinson from Season Tide whenever we have the season changes, because she comes from a perspective of, the mythology. And this is sort of like an ancient threshold every time we have these season changes that we see in the astrology. But what does it really mean when we talk about sort of the journey that we're on in our lives? And Sarah is always a really great guide for helping me figure out what kind of rituals are appropriate and really what the history is that we can bring to our current lives to see, how we can really honor these time periods. So, Sarah, let me see.
Can you hear me?
Hi. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for joining me. I know you said that you had a little bit of a cold or sore throat, So I'll
Yes.
make sure that we
I've got
listen
my key
intently.
nearby.
Okay, great. So tell me, what do you have to share for us today with the equinox?
I prepared a little talk about the equinox, about more volume on Sarah. Oh, can you hear me now?
I can hear you okay. You're a little soft. You are a little soft.
Okay. Maybe I just need to speak louder. It's
Yeah,
my
that's
voice.
much better. That's much better.
It's my froggy voice.
Mhm.
No, today I wanted to talk to you guys about the equinox, specifically the spring equinox, the symbols around the spring equinox, and then again how we can use ritual to honor our experience of the equinox that we're experiencing right now. Oh, sorry, something got unplugged here. Okay, so first I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about balance, about this idea of equinox and balance. At the spring equinox, just as at the autumn equinox, we have this moment of balance, right? Both energetically, as Christina was talking about, and in the sky with equal hours of day and night. But when you look at the myths and folk traditions of the two equinoxes, you'll find like very different symbolism between the two. At the autumn equinox, most of the myths and symbols revolve around harvest, facing our own inner demons, and bringing balance to our inner world. And if you want to learn more about the autumn equinox, especially for those of you in the Southern Hemisphere tuning in, then I would refer you to the episode of the Radiant Astrology podcast that I did with Christina last September. But in spring, the most prevalent mythic archetype is that of the dying and rising god. So stories like that of Persephone going down into the underworld in autumn to her husband Hades, and then returning again to her mother Demeter in spring, or Osiris murdered by his brother Set and then resurrected to impregnate his wife Isis before becoming the god of the underworld. Even the Easter story of Jesus, they all share this same central theme of dying, entering the underworld, and then returning again to life. And it's through these mythic stories that we're brought face to face with this profound mystery of life, death, and rebirth that we experience over the course of each year as autumn turns to winter and then turns to spring. And so at the time of the spring equinox, we celebrate with symbols of fertility, rebirth, and new life. Symbols such as bulbed flowers like tulips or Easter lilies that die back completely lying dormant all winter, and then they reappear like magic in the spring. Or eggs and chicks, those are obvious symbols of fertility and new life. Or seeds, they get buried under the ground, seemingly lifeless, only to then be transformed down there in the depths to again burst forth into new life. And then there are the rabbits associated with spring, partly because, yes, they are a very fertile animal, but more because the hare is believed to have been the sacred animal of the Germanic goddess of the dawn and springtime, Yostre, who gives her name to the now Christian celebration of Easter. And based on Indo-European root words, we know that the name Yostre is connected to other similar goddesses that go as far back as the written word in Mesopotamia. So Inanna, Ishtar, Astarte, Aphrodite, who the Romans knew as Venus, Astara, and Yostre. All fertility goddesses tied to springtime, to the dawn, and to what was called the morning and evening star, which we now know is the planet Venus. And so I'm sure you can just sense from these symbols that the energy of the spring equinox is very different from that of the autumn equinox. And it's for one simple reason. The autumn equinox is a moment of balance amidst inward contracting energy. It's like the time to gather in all the fruits of your labor over the past 6 months and prepare for the dark months ahead. But at the spring equinox, this is a moment of balance amidst expansive outward energy. It's a time to refocus and prepare for all the growth and change that's to come over the next 6 months as we move into the light. And maybe some of you guys are thinking, like, what's there to prepare for, right? It's like summer, it's warm, it's awesome. It's, it's not like winter at all. But every time of year, every archetypal point in the yearly cycle has its own blessings and challenges. And we all know the challenges of the dark half of the year, right? We know what it's like to be in winter, and so we can prepare for those challenges. But often people are caught off guard by the challenges of the light half of the year. And if you're wondering what some of these challenges might be, I've included in the PDF that you received for this event a little survey for you to do, not right now, obviously, but like later when you have some time to reflect. It's a way for you to gauge how well you've been managing this shift over the past couple of weeks that we've begun to have into this expansive growth energy that exemplifies the spring and summer months. And so what we want to do is make sure that we're approaching the equinox with intention in a way that brings in that balance and prevents our feelings of excitement and momentum from turning into like exhaustion and overwhelm. Which leads me to the second part of my talk here today, how we can use ritual to bring in that intention to our experience of the equinox. Now, whenever I'm discussing ritual or encouraging people to try performing ritual for the first time, I tell them that this is a way for you to bridge that gap between the rational and the magical, right? Between your doubting, scientific, ego mind and that deeper part of you that's connected to your soul, to your subconscious, and to the divine. It's too often in our modern society that we find ourselves becoming disconnected from what it truly means to be like a human being, having this magical experience of life. Our rational ego brains take over the running of our daily lives, and we no longer feel that connected to our deepest selves. But through ritual, we can reconnect to our place in that same universal cycle that gets played out in myth and story and archetype and through the cycle of the seasons. And so truly giving yourself the space and permission to ritually honor your dreams and goals at equinox is a sacred form of self-love. It's an honoring of not only your physical self living here in the world, but also your spiritual self, that part of you that is connected to the divine. Now, the first step in performing any ritual is always to find a way to move the simple actions of the mundane, the simple actions of the ritual out of the mundane and into the sacred, meaning like we differentiate these actions by way of the symbolic and emotional implications that we invest in them. And we do this in part by creating a sacred space in which to perform the ritual. Now, I will say that even though I included in the PDF a list of tools and items that you can use to set up your sacred space, to perform your ritual, as well as an outline for an actual spring equinox ritual involving the concepts of death and rebirth, still the most powerful rituals are the ones that are personally meaningful. So what I offer is meant to give you guys ideas, right? You interpret it, you incorporate it into your own practice in a way that feels good for you. You definitely, at the very least, want to make sure that you're setting up your sacred space in a way that feels sacred to you. So once you've created your sacred space, you'll want to make sure you have all your supplies on hand before you begin by, of course, grounding and centering yourself in some way. You also want to maybe energetically prepare the environment. And this is usually done with some form of purification, whether it's burning sage or Palo Santo, or simply sprinkling salt water around in a circle in the area that you're going to perform the ritual. Then once you've prepared yourself, you prepared your space, the third step is obviously to perform the ritual. And most of the steps of the actual ritual, I'm not going to go over them now. I've included them in the PDF, so you don't have to be like frantically writing down notes right now, because they really are just like simple and intuitive. First, we take the list that we've written out in the death column, which is again part of the PDF. And once you have that, you want to declare out loud those things that you want to see wither and retreat from your life before, disposing of your list through that transformational flame, whether it's in a fireplace or a fireproof bowl or a bonfire. And then the second part of the ritual is a lot like the first, only now you're reading out those things on your rebirth list that you intend to rejuvenate and enhance in your life before, you fold up your list and you put it in the bottom of a shallow container or a planter that you can cover with soil and seeds. And if you want to give your ritual some extra juice, you can put crystals in the soil as well. Rose quartz, moonstone, bloodstone, amethyst, and aquamarine are all really good choices to tap into this equinox energy. And then that's it. You can put your planter somewhere that you'll be able to see and tend your seeds every day, because as the seeds grow, so too will those intentions that you've energetically planted in there with them. And so, yeah, I hope this gives you guys some ideas and inspiration for performing your own equinox ritual this week, sometime while we're in this point of balance. And thank you again to Christina for inviting me to be part of this event.
Wow, that was beautiful, Sarah. Thank you so much. You're so magical and so educated. What's the other word? Erudite, which I love because I know that you've done your research. And everyone's saying thank you so much. Wonderful ideas. I know everyone wants to, mark these experiences with a ritual. And what I love about what you say, and what I had Brianna Saucy on my podcast recently too, that you said, keep it simple. And what really makes a difference is your intention, your focused intention. Isn't that right?
Exactly. Like I said, the most powerful rituals are the ones that are like meaningful to you. So as long as you are bringing your centered self to that moment of ritual and taking those actions out of that, out of the mundane and moving them into the sacred, then there's power in that always.
Perfect. And can you tell us a little bit about the freebie that you included in the PDF?
Oh, yes. I have a free 5-part video series that actually goes over this history and folklore and mythic background of not just the spring equinox, but all 8 of the major points in the yearly cycle. And you can find that at mythicyear.seasontide.com.
Great. Thank you so much, Sarah.
You're welcome.
I can't believe we're 30 minutes into it. I must have been yapping for 20 minutes in the beginning. Thank you so much, Sarah. And again, anybody can find Sarah online at seasontide.com, and make sure you check out the PDF for all of her guidance on creating a ritual for this equinox. Okay, great. So I'm sure that gave you a lot of juicy bits to think about. Now, really one of the most inspiring sort of people that I've run into recently, I know Rebecca and I connected online, and I did a post recently about Rebecca Gordon. She wrote the book, Your Body and the Stars. And I saw her once on Dr. Oz. There she is. Rebecca, hold up that book again. Hi, Rebecca. That's the book. And I just have to say, tell my little story. I was in Atlanta. I live in Florida now. I was in Atlanta visiting a friend. And I saw that on her shelf. And my friend was an energy worker and tarot reader and everything. And she said the funniest story was this girl's mother never liked her doing energy work or astrology or tarot. She said she thought she was like devil worshiping or like, like into some crazy stuff. But the mother loved watching Dr. Oz and recognized Rebecca on there. And it really spoke to her, the thing about it, it made sense that, our body is aligned with certain things having to do not only with the seasons, but with our astrology, and how, we can't explain it, but for some reason it resonates as truth. And so my friend's mother bought her the book, and all of a sudden now is open to the actual insight of astrology. And so I just thought that was such a beautiful story. And I thank you so much, Rebecca, for the work you're doing. And I'm so honored to have you here today with us.
Thank you so much, Christina. It's an honor to be here, and happy equinox, everyone. Thank you. Good to see so many of you in the room as well. And yeah, it's been really amazing from going on the show with the book, because it brought so many people into astrology that I think would have never really come across it otherwise. And I mean, a lot of people forget the beginning of astrology was, a lot of it was medical. We had these problems of like what's going on inside our bodies, and we hadn't invented the X-ray or the scalpel or any of that yet, but we were sky watchers, and we could cast a birth chart. We could see where Mars was. We could see the best time for surgeries and things like that based on the moon as well. So yeah, medical astrology is very close to my heart, probably the way I got into astrology overall.
That's beautiful. And so I know you said, is it okay if I asked you, asked a favor to you. I know you do this amazing body scan that is in the PDF. I don't know if you wanted to talk before that, but I know I wanted to see if you'd be open to leading us in a little bit of that work that you do.
Thanks, Christina. Yeah, I would love to. Actually, I have a little bit of a run of show I'd like to do, and probably end with the body scan, if that's okay. So all of you have the body scan in your PDF, so you can follow along with me if you like. And it's something that I really created to go alongside the book as a way to check in with your body. And the thing I just want to remind everybody of is, like, no matter what sign you are, you're an Aries, you're a Virgo, Scorpio rising, Pisces moon, whatever, all of the signs exist within you, okay? No matter what, you have Aries somewhere in you. You have a head. Aries exists within you. Every sign is in your body. So certain times of the year, other signs are amplified, and other times of the year, other signs are kind of sublimated. So the body scan I created is really a way for you to check in with how are each of the signs functioning within you at any given moment. And then it's a nice way to really say, oh, wow, the Leo in me is really suppressed. Let me focus on my Leo mantra every day for like a month and really amplify the Leo or whatever. So it's a way to be really physical and interactive with the zodiac too. And in the book, there's a lot of sort of mind-body exercises to activate the signs within you as well. Okay. So I guess we'll get started with all of this. There's a lot to share. So first, we were really going to talk about the mind-body connection of moving from Pisces into Aries. And what we forget sometimes is also that there's no brick walls in the sky. There's no brick walls between the signs. If you ever look at the sky, you see constellations are so overlapping each other, right? And so what I really want to focus on is actually like the connective tissue between Pisces and Aries, and how we can move from formless into form, from magical, imaginal world into form, and do that mindfully. And yeah, in practice, really, how can we build the pillars of our temple in this year to come and do it and make this a place that we want to live. So this is a really sacred time of year. And I love, love, love what Sarah was just saying about building the bridge between the rational, the irrational, and the magical world. The magical and irrational, the imaginal world, and the real 3D realm. And that's what we're really doing as well, moving from Pisces into Aries. So we'll take you on a journey, and we'll kind of explore what's been going on, how we can take that energy and actually manifest with it, and do so with alignment and purpose. And then we'll do the fun body scan. Does that sound good? Okay. So let's see. Yeah, first, every sign lives within you. I guess that's the thing I wanted to start with. And we've had, as you know, so many planets in Pisces over the last month. It was sort of like a very wet, soggy time for many people. It was quite heavy, right? There was a lot of lethargy, and then we had, you know, the Sun Chiron conjunction. Perhaps all of your childhood wounds came back up, and you know, we had that lovely Sun Neptune, which might have taken you into a dream world. It might have just made you feel really depressed. It might have, you know, spurred some kind of spiritual quest. So overall, this has been a pretty watery month. It's like walking through water. And I look at the seasons, and then I suddenly see all of our planets suddenly move to fire. So it's like, wait a minute here. Are we just going to go through that heavy, watery space into the realm of fire that quickly? And you know, in life, sometimes we just have to, okay, next, move on to the next step. But I was just considering over the last month how important it could be to actually take some of the Pisces musings and turn them around and work with the subconscious mind as we build our new pillars into Aries. So many of you know your subconscious mind is what creates your world, right? How many of you had some interesting old subconscious stories come up over the last month? Things that you're like, wow, I didn't think that was still here. Patterns you realize show up in Pisces season. Things from the old waters of the past show up. And, you know, now that all the planets are moving into Aries, we can have an opportunity to really look at those patterns and explore them and say, what is that there to teach me? How is that a teacher? And ultimately, how can I build with that in the year to come? How can I turn that around and actually create something wonderful, a teaching, and gain wisdom from it? So because Chiron and Neptune are in Pisces, and all the planets did just hang out with them to integrate these lessons, I wanted you all to really get clear right now on what your unique lesson was, what came up for you, and then how we might build that into your personal wisdom, into a teaching. And how can that plant a beautiful seed for your year to come in the architecture? So if everybody wants to, I'm going to ask you a few questions. You can write something down right now if you'd like. If you want to make this more interactive, that would be great. So you just want to take a minute to write down. First of all, we're going to flip the script after, but you're going to first write down one challenging thought that you kept going back to over the last month in Pisces season, or what was the Chiron story that came up? In a nutshell, the first thing that comes to your head. You want to just put that on the paper. And then you can write down, how did all of this Pisces water sit with you? How do you deal with water? Was it weighted, challenging, and why? What was the weight about? What surfaced for you here? So you want to really just like stream of consciousness. And you're going to probably see an old pattern that came up through this, something that's probably woven throughout your life. And this equinox here, we're at a precipice where we're really like, we've been drenched in these deep waters and now you're thrown into the blazing fires. So interesting time to really bring this up and explore, okay, you see this is something that perhaps has hindered you in the past. And this might have been a subconscious story. So there is a lesson to learn from this, and it's probably showing up now to teach you something vital that will help build the structure of your year to come. And I would just suggest for everybody to really focus more on that continuity between Pisces and Aries right now. How can you integrate and process through that story to move into Aries and build with that? And what is your teaching as a healer, as a leader with this step? So getting clear on that, we're moving into fire, and you want to turn that, really turn that into magic, turn that into creation and wisdom. So this said, I do want to quickly guide you through a body scan that's going to move you through. I want you to focus on especially Aries and Pisces here. You can listen for your sun sign, listen for anyone. You can follow along. I'm just going to read through Aries to Pisces, and we're going to explore the zodiac in the body as well. Remember, focus on the equinox. Okay, we're going to start with Aries. I am my head, Aries, my ability to pioneer, to start fresh and break new ground. I am assertive, I am courage. I assert myself with active awareness. Taurus, I am my neck, Taurus, my steadiness in moving through life, enjoying the sounds, colors, and textures along the way. I transcend the material by exalting the sensual world. Gemini, I am my arms and hands, Gemini, my ability to connect to the world and serve as a messenger of the illumined mind. I communicate and disseminate wisdom. Cancer, I am my chest and breast. Cancer is my ability to give life, to nurture and to receive love. I initiate the cycle of giving and receiving. Leo, I am my heart and back. Leo, I radiate the light within and shine with generosity. I am the star, the sun. I am love and give light to the world. Virgo, I am my abdomen. Virgo, I serve with purity of purpose. I cleanse my body and mind so that I may serve with truth and purpose. Libra, I am my lower back. Libra, I balance the scales of truth with grace. I am truth and I am grace. I am the steady fulcrum that balances all colors and the spectrum of life. Scorpio, I am my reproductive organ and the sacral center. Scorpio, I create and then I let go. I die, transform, and soar to new heights. I trust the process of letting go and starting again. I regenerate, I am resilient. Sagittarius, I am my hips and my thighs. Sagittarius, I am an explorer in life. I am free to believe and share my experience in this world. My hips are the midpoint as I direct my lower nature with higher aspiration. Capricorn, I am my knees, Capricorn. I act responsibly for the greater good. I'm setting sights high and taking the necessary steps to achieve. I take on responsibility because I see trust in the end goal. Aquarius, I am my ankles, Aquarius. I stand for individuality and my ankles give me that strength. I awaken the potential of a new age. In community, we can support each other and help each other to stand stronger. Pisces, I am my feet, Pisces. The part of me that relates to the all of me. I integrate spirit into matter. I am an open receiver to life, feeling my way through life with awareness and connectivity between all things. So the entire zodiac lives within you, and this is the time where you really might want to focus on imagination and subconscious patterns and how that becomes your reality.
Wow, that's really powerful, Rebecca. Thank you so much. You know, I wanted to say that, and like what you said, is there aren't like walls in the sky, right? Like separating Pisces and Aries. And Pisces is actually the all, right? So as much as we're, you know, urged to move forward, and, you know, we can't forget what we've been through, or should we, right? All of this Piscean and Chironic energy, it's part of us now. It's like woven into the fabric of who we are. So I think that was a beautiful reminder of that.
Great. Yeah. I mean, there's no walls there. And Pisces it's very interesting because we're looking at the head and the feet, right? Where every other body part in the zodiac is a little more connected. And here we go from the imaginal space into reality. So
wonderful. Thank you so much. You got so much squeezed in there into the time allotted. Thank you. I really appreciate that. But before we move on, I definitely wanted to hear about your special offer. You're doing an amazing retreat. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, I love to host retreats, and this is what I do every year. This year it's in Yulapa, Mexico on the West Coast, and it's about adventure and astrology. A lot of you know I'm a big adventure traveler, so we're going to be doing as much experiential astrology as we do also fun things like paddle boarding and hiking, waterfalls, swimming, boats, and really being in this beautiful seaside village of Yulapa, Mexico for about a week. From the 12th of April to the 19th. And the sign-up closes actually on the 23rd. We have a few more spots. And I think I was offering a discount to anybody who's here watching this for the retreat as well. And we can send you that code later. I believe it's Aries Awakening.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's in the PDF. I think at the very end. I know it's a little soon for me, but the next time you do it, count me in. I need to find a way to make it to Mexico.
Oh, great. And one more thing, also intermediate astrology school is opening soon too, and all the info will go up on that tonight. Also, I'll give a code for everyone on that too.
And that's on your website, mypathastrology.com.
Yeah, I've got to update it right after this call, so I'll do that right away.
Thank you so much. So much gratitude for you and your wisdom and just bringing your light to us today. Thank you, Rebecca.
Great to be here, Christina, and see all of you here.
Thank you. Well, wow, wasn't that amazing? And I love how Rebecca reminds us that medical astrology is ancient. And, the ancients really needed to understand how to heal their bodies. And isn't it amazing? What kind of universe do we live in that our health and our destiny is all encoded in the stars? Don't ask me. I won't even try to explain how that happens, but the fact that it is so is pretty amazing. So thank you, Rebecca. And I'm so excited for our next guest is Tara All. She is an astrologer, and many of you might know her from Sage Goddess. I know I have a lot of goddesses in our community. But Tara actually has done some really beautiful teachings around Chiron, the wounded healer, the soul healer, where the medicine is the wound. And you know what? I know in my community, Chiron is, really resonates with people because we all know that there's a part of us that's wounded, right? But there's also a part of us that is always healed. And, but in order for us to really align with our fullness, we want to recognize that wounded part of ourselves. And that's where Chiron can be a really beautiful opening to that. And so I'm so honored to welcome Tara All today to teach us a little bit about Chiron. I'll go ahead and unmute you if I can unmute you. Hold on. Okay, there you go. Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. It's strange because it gives a big button on the screen that says unmute yourself, but if you can hear me, it's all good.
I told you I'd take good care of you.
Yeah. Happy Equinox, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm glad that you're here. And Rebecca, it was a perfect segue because you brought us into feeling in our bodies. And to me, Chiron work is something that you can't do unless you're willing to feel. One of the magical things about getting into Chiron is you have to slow down, you have to feel, and you have to be present. It's not something you can intellectualize. And most of us astrologers can all raise our hands and know that we're really good at intellectualizing things. And so sometimes the balance into getting us actually into our bodies takes some effort, because going into that space is going into the unknown, which for most of us is a little bit uncomfortable. So my intent today is to get you inspired to maybe get a little bit more personal with Chiron, the archetype, and the part of you that it represents. similar to Rebecca talking about us having all the signs, I also believe that we are the planets. You know, they are representations of parts of our psyche, so they're not really something outside. When we talk about Chiron doing this, doing that, it's good to take a minute. Remember, that's actually happening collectively and happening personally inside, which is actually gives us it gives us a lot of strength and power, I guess, in knowing that it's not just happening to us; we are happening. So one of my sayings for Chiron is, "You are happening," and if you want to be in the moment where the richest transformation can happen, you jump in where it's uncomfortable. And if you want to have some help getting where it's uncomfortable, check out Chiron in your personal chart, because it will show you your perceived wound, the parts of you that you feel can't ever be fixed. The thing about Chiron is there's this inherent belief or feeling, attachment, that the thing that isn't quite right will never be right. It's like a fatal flaw almost. And so that part of us, we tend to either overcompensate, we can overcompensate for it, or we can totally avoid it, move away from it. So I think of Chiron as being almost this fortress, like this barrier that we build up, a protection around ourselves. But once we break through it, and this is why I know I don't refer to Chiron as the broken heart, it's the broken open heart. It's you open up so you can then have space to feel all the pleasure and the joy of life. And Chiron, you know, it taps into our fears, but the flip side of the coin of fear is excitement. So if you want to get more excited about life, you know, if you want to get juicy and raw and real and vulnerable, go for Chiron. If you don't, you know, check out now. You know, figure, you know, you want to do something else. But if you're into it, this is your opportunity. And with Chiron transiting, moving into Aries, it's bringing it personal. Now, there's lots of ways to look at this, but I think for the past 8 years with Chiron being in Pisces, first of all, I want to mention that as Chiron's transiting, that's tapping into collective wounds, but we are all made up of a collective, meaning that when Chiron's in a sign, we're picking up and feeling the woundedness around that archetype from everybody. So in every moment in time, you may not even be sure whether that perceived weakness or that perceived fear or inadequacy, is that you or is that all of us? So I just want to encourage you to feel into that sometimes, right? We're still Chiron and Pisces. So that sense of hopelessness that can come with Chiron and Pisces. You know, when we think about the wounded healer, or a sense of lack being in the sign of universal oneness, of connection, of divinity, of imagination, woundedness around that can mean I can't receive unconditional love. No matter what I do to affect change, there's not hope, you know. Now on the positive side, it taps us into that void where we can go in, because in the void, I mean, the light is in the darkness. So if you're willing to go in the void, you will find where you are deeply connected to everything. And I hope that for many of us over the past 8 years, even if we've not consciously been doing this, a part of us has been pulled into it. I think it was Rebecca who talked about the inertia around Pisces. Is very true. We come face to face with our inertia. Part of the Chiron wounding represented by Pisces is our inertia, our sense to want to escape, to not want to be in the present moment, right? We fall back into what I call like the collective soup, right? You know, where there is no differentiation. But if we use that time well, we may have come to a sense of feeling like, okay, maybe we're actually a little more comfortable not being so separate, right? Sometimes, especially like in America, we work so hard to be, I'm going to be me and stand independent and, you know, blaze my own trail, which is awesome. And we're in Aries time now. But during the Pisces time, some of that could melt away and let us feel more of how we're one. And there's a strength in that oneness, right? There's a nurturing and a love that comes from that connection. But now it's like, oh my gosh, like I finally got comfortable a little bit maybe in that soup. And now Chiron's going to move into Aries and it lights a fire right under your butt. You know, it is essentially, now what are you going to do with it? Like I had this vision last night as I was thinking about this time of us sharing together. I was thinking about how it's like we all come together and then we all separate apart and we're equally serving the whole and we're serving us as individuals. That is this bridge from Pisces to Aries. Through Chiron's ingress into Aries, we're literally being reborn into something new. In the PDF, I included a lot of information about Chiron and Aries and the wounds that it triggers, some of the potential remedies for working through it. And so I encourage you to use that on your own. But when you're even looking at some of the contemplative questions, it's not just, are you willing to blaze a new trail, even if no one follows initially? It's a we. Are we willing to blaze a new trail? Look at where we're at today. Look at politically, look at socially, look at all the things happening. Like, we need to blaze something new. But I don't think the answer is just to say, hey, me, Tara, I'm going to go do my special thing. It's like taking that collectiveness and then finding out, how do we take all of our little pieces and branch off of that collectiveness and still stay cohesive? So when Chiron moves into Aries, triggers around physical initiation can come up. In other words, it can be fear of, I can't step out and do it. Maybe I don't feel brave enough. Maybe I don't think I'm strong enough. Maybe I can't act on my own behalf. See, Aries has so much to do with acting on our own authentic desire. What do I really want? So it's the natural expression of who we are, right? So imagine how much effort it takes for a baby to be born, right? It's a big process, right? I mean, you come through this whole time and then they come out into the world and it's a shock. In some ways, this Chiron transition is going to be like a shock. It's going to be a shock us into our bodies. We had this time in the cosmic womb, for good or for not so happy, right? Because the cosmic womb can be nightmares, or it can be, wonderful, fantastical visions. But now we're going to get pushed out. So we're all going to come face to face, collectively and individually, with, how am I able to act on my almost like gut knowing of what I need to do? And there's not always a formulated plan for that, right? Aries is not thought out. Aries is streaming consciousness. It is spontaneous action. One thing too, I just wanted to mention as well, that with Chiron, the journey is the healing, right? It is the process that is the healing. So we're not aiming, right, to fix a wound. That's not the deal with Chiron. There's actually nothing broken. But we all have our senses of things that are weaker. I was thinking like Chiron in mythology, right? So he was struck by the arrow in his leg. Stories vary a little bit, right? But it had the Gorgon's blood on it, and he had this incurable wound that couldn't be healed. And so it put him through all this time of learning and practicing all these kinds of medicine and healing medicines that he shared with the world. Well, maybe in some ways, our wound in some ways is our emotional nature. Because as humans, we're never going to be rid of our feelings, right? And feelings aren't controllable, and feelings aren't rational. But what we can do through Chiron work is develop more emotional intelligence. In other words, some people believe that Chiron is a higher octave of the moon, meaning it can be a way to have emotional maturity. You take the part of yourself that can be reactive in life, and you learn not just to be thrown by it. You're not just thrown on the top of the waves, but you learn to get down in the wave and go with it. And I think that's what we're going to be learning as we go into this Chiron and Aries period, which is going to be in some ways a crisis of identity. Who are we? Who are we as a country? Who are we as a group? Who are we as astrologers? Who are you in your job? Who am I in my relationship? Who am I as a person? These are big questions, but they're important because we're getting ready to start a new cycle of healing. That's the thing. We talk about wounding a lot with Chiron, but it's a time of healing who we are, like letting the natural selves rise up and then move forward into life in a fresh new way.
That's beautiful, Tara. We do have one question, which I thought might be relevant. Lou asked, Chiron is in my natal Aries. Does that mean I will be more powerful? I'll take a little stab at that. Chiron is actually asking something of us, right? I mean, it's about, yes, you could become more powerful, or you could see where Chiron is saying, this is maybe a weak part of yourself, that you can add some of that fire energy and that courageousness. When we say, just as you said, when we hear that Chiron is about the wound or about, something that needs fixing, a lot of times it can touch on our wounded area or weak area or vulnerable area. But I see Chiron as being an opportunity to create agency in your ability to adapt and to rise to that. And how would you how would you face that question?
Yeah, I don't think just by having it be in the sign of Aries makes you more powerful, but I would say for anybody delving into your Chiron, it lets you access your power because it exposes all the areas that you kind of try to protect. And it gives them, just like you were saying, Christine, it gives you agency, right? You have agency through it. But one thing I will say about Chiron and Aries, I have Chiron and Aries in the first house. Because Aries in the first house are so attached to the physical body, when you get in and do your Chiron work, your body will be full of more vitality. It's just the nature of Aries itself. And to not face those pieces, it's almost like you shut down part of your vitality. You know, it's like you can't shut off your fear without losing your excitement. You know, the body is as a physical instrument is a big part of our power in this lifetime. So in that respect, you know, I would say, yes, your body, your ability to initiate, to move, to be strong, you know, that's a big part of Chiron and Aries. But you already are these things. That's also the thing. Like, it's not that you're going to be more powerful. You're going to sort of take the lid off of, you know, your own power that you were holding down. But oh my gosh, right, with Chiron and Aries or anything Aries, when you take the lid off, you know, beware, because, you know, it moves, right? And when you recognize that what you thought was movement, maybe in the past, because Aries can move fast to avoid things, think it's moving fast to avoid things. When you actually stop that and start moving like in a solid embodied direction, that's a force that's nearly unstoppable. Mm-hmm. Aries is strong that way. Mm-hmm.
And the polarity of Aries is Libra, right? So there is something there about finding balance and finding balance with others. Could you, I know we want to wrap this piece up, but can you give us some insight on how the polarity of Libra with Chiron and Aries can be helpful with that medicine walk?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think one of the big things about Libra is it reminds us to listen. And that listening is not just to people around us, but to listen to ourselves. You know, the ability to look at both sides of everything. And to really play around with the idea of balance, you know, I think is important. In your personal chart, if you're following this and planning to do a little more self-discovery, the house that your Chiron is in, the polarity to that house is actually, the way Adam Gainsbourg teaches it, your medicine walk. So it can be really exciting to see, like, for example, my Aries is in the first house. As I develop my medicine, where I take it out in the world is through my relationships and partnerships. And that's been very true in my life. So you can look at polarity as that way as well. Like, the more we all come into being the me of Aries, like real, authentic, genuine, spontaneous me, like just naturally acting on my own behalf, being me, we have more to contribute to the we, right? And the we is the Libra. Mm-hmm. But we don't just do the me to exist in a world with nothing else. Like, we're interdependent. So remembering that there is a we brings the balance to the me as well. So yeah, that's a great question. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you so much, Tara. And I want to encourage everyone, you know, in the PDF that you got in your email, Tara has like some really great resources. She goes through all of the signs, Chiron through the signs and houses. So definitely take a look at that, and definitely visit her at taraal.com. That's TARAAAL.com, right?
Yeah,
and
lots of ways.
Yes, and she writes for Consciousness Magazine, or Consciousness Community Magazine. And also, she is actually, this is really special, she's offering Chiron-focused readings for a limited time, I think until Chiron goes into Aries, right? Which is like April 17th, right?
Yes, yeah. And you just need to schedule by that time. So I wouldn't expect it to get on the books. But if you schedule by that time, yeah, I would love to. Chiron is a big part of my own walk, hugely, and I really enjoy sharing it. Christina, thank you so much. And thank you everyone.
Thank you so much, Tara. And I might be actually taking you up on a Chiron reading too. I'm not beneath getting a good reading from a great astrologer.
It would be an honor.
Thank you, Tara. Okay, so with that, we are entering into the meditative space. I don't know if you can hear my dog back there. She doesn't like the singing bowls. But recently I came across this beautiful musician, Amelie Pletten from Germany. And we did a beautiful ceremony together. Actually, I did a ceremony for the New Paradigm Astrology on elderhood. And I'll actually be offering that later through my list. And in order to get us into a space of that receptivity and that accepting our responsibility, our Saturn responsibility, Amelie came and did a beautiful singing bowl meditation for us. Now, I will say, everyone, if you have your earbuds, if you have some earbuds, put them in, because it can be a little challenging to hear and to really get the sound from these singing bowls. So I'm putting mine in now and turning up the volume. You might want to turn up your volume all the way. And so let me see. Let's hope it works this time. So let me see. Amelie, are you there?
Yeah, hello. Hello. I'm there. Can you hear me?
Oh my God. Okay. Shoot, I can't hear you.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear her.
Okay.
Let's see. Oh, I can't hear you right now. Yeah. I wonder what happened. I was hearing. Oh, Mary said she can hear you. Okay. Why can't I hear you? Can everybody hear? Okay, everyone else can hear you. Maybe I should take off my. Everyone else can hear you.
Yeah, your phone's.
Okay, now I can hear you. I think I have my settings wrong. But go ahead and tell us a little bit about your singing bowls and how they can help align us with the solar energy.
Yeah, so it's just perfect to integrate the singing bowls in this session today, because they help us to integrate the body, the mind, and the spirit, and the soul, or the heart, whatever you like to name it. And it helps us to bring all these different levels together. And I have two singing bowls that are especially tuned in for the planets. I will just sound them first. This is Saturn, my new friend. And another one which is tuned in for Chiron and Moon. And I will just make it short. I think it's beautiful just to tune in. If you can relax, lay back a bit, contemplate a bit, just dive into the sounds of the singing bowls. That might help you to integrate all the food we got in the last hour. And I will just invite you to dive into the sounds. So come softly back. No, I can't hear you. I don't know. I can't hear you, but I don't know if anybody else can hear me. I don't know. I can't. However. But never mind. Thank you so much for being here. Send you much love. Can't hear you.
Can't hear you, Christina.
Oh my goodness, could you not hear me?
No, but
Okay.
now I can.
Thank you so much, Emily. That was so beautiful. And I know I could definitely feel a little bit of that washing over me. Please stay. We have one more amazing guest who I saved for last because he is actually, I've really connected with James, luckily through Facebook, and we've also connected. He's given me some beautiful spiritual guidance. He's an astrologer who, as I do, believes that astrology is a beautiful tool to help us on our path of our spiritual journey. But the symbols, they're there as sort of guide. I mean, I believe they're like guideposts. But when we get so obsessed with the symbols, and like Tara said, it's not Chiron doing something to me, that is me, right? I am Chiron, as I am the sun, as I am Saturn. We brought James in to invoke the sun and do a beautiful Orphic hymn, and he can tell us a little bit more about that. James, I'm going to go ahead and welcome you. Hi, James.
Hi. How is everyone today? You're probably wonderful if you've been able to sit through this beautiful session with these amazing healers and spiritual guides. It's actually a very beautiful experience for me to sit here and to be present with everyone and to share this light. And it's been a true blessing to experience that with you all. Let's see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to recite the Orphic hymn to the sun, and then just briefly discuss the sun in relation to the self. So I will begin that now.
Should we close our eyes, or how should we?
You can close your eyes if you'd like, but the Orphic hymns are intended to be sort of like a celebration of the various planets. And so whatever it is that you are most comfortable with is totally appropriate.
Great, thank you.
All right, let me get there. 1 second. Okay. Hear, golden Titan, whose eternal eye with broad survey illumines all the sky. Self-born, unwearied, in diffusing light, and to all eyes the mirror of delight. Lord of the seasons, with thy fiery chariot, and leaping coursers beaming light from afar. With thy right hand the source of morning light, and with thy left the father of the night. Agile and vigorous, venerable sun, fiery and bright around the heavens you run. Foe to the wicked, but the good man's guide, o'er all his steps propitious you preside. With various founding golden lyre, 'tis mine to fill the world with harmony divine. Father of ages, guide of prosperous deeds, the world's commander, born by lucid seeds. Immortal Jove, all-searching bearing light, source of existence, pure and fiery bright, bearer of fruit, almighty Lord of years, agile and warm, whom every power reveres. Great eye of nature and the starry skies, doomed with immortal flames to set and rise, dispensing justice, lover of the stream, the world's great despot, and o'er all supreme. Faithful defender, and the eye of right, of steeds the ruler, and of life the light. With founding wit, for fiery steeds you guide, when in the cart of day you glorious ride. Propitious on these mystic labors shine, and bless thy supplicants with a life divine. That is the Orphic hymn to the sun.
Oh, thank you so much, James. I wanted to just share that I felt like, I don't know if it was from the reverberation from the music that Emily was playing, but as soon as you started like invoking that solar energy, I just was buzzing. Like my skin and everything was just buzzing everywhere. And I just really felt that solar energy from above. And I saw all of us in a circle, you know, all of us together in a circle, like seated around this, like we were in a field and seated around this big, glowing, warm, inviting ball of
Totally. And that was actually something that I was visualizing at various points within our discussion, was all of us connected by the light of the sun. And in, you know, the Hermetic text, you know, and the ancient texts in general, you know, one of the principles is as above, so below, and as within, so without. And that principle refers to the great soul, SOL, in the ancient text is the sun, is the same soul that is within us. And so, as above, so below, as within, so without. The great limitless light of the sun rises within us. We connect to the true soul of creation as one with it and all things, because in all exists that glorious, limitless light of creation. And by connecting with the solar energy, we are able to channel that divine presence into the daily life, into the so-called real world. And then we connect to the true world of the creation and the creator. And we recognize that, I am the creator within the creation, creating creation, and it goes on and on. So by connecting with the light of the sun, as the sun ingresses into Aries, exalted, we realize that the archetypal Christ is within us. And as we allow the old, there is a, oh, 1 second. I think, Christina, there might be, okay, it went away. When there is a, what was that? What basically, like the archetypal Christ is within us, when we diminish the ego self and we deconstruct the ego by identifying with the true self within and with everything in existence. And my sun is in Pisces, so I really do relate to the idea of collective consciousness being one with all. And it's the truth, though, is that at our very essential nature, we are all the same. All matter is formed from atoms. And we know what happens when you split the atom and how much power is in there. And so in every single particle of our being, that is who we are. And when we realize that the light within us is that true self, that is the resurrection, because the true self rises up and that light fills our entire being. One day in meditation, this came to me, that the center of the eye is called the pupil because it captures the light, and the light is our teacher. And so as the light passes through the pupil into our consciousness, it's the same as the third eye captures the light from the soul, and we create our inner world and our outer world. And so those are just a few thoughts that I wanted to share. I just would like to bless everyone, and I'm sending you lots and lots of that limitless, radiant light of creation. And I know that we are all filled with the most perfect expression of the divine perfection that exists within us all, always, because perfection is the truth of our reality. It is not something that we achieve, strive for, or aim to accomplish, because it is already finished, and we are already one, perfect, whole, and complete, and so is all that exists. Thank you. Namaste. I love you all, and be blessed.
Thank you so much, James. And I just wanted to just mention and share with everyone that we had a conversation that was so powerful where you had said, because I noticed a big shift in you, where it's almost just like no defensiveness, no ego, no, like something really opened up for you. And you told me that you just had the knowing that you were your higher self, and I think we often, at least I've heard a lot in the spiritual community about like channeling your higher self or asking your higher self for something, almost like it's another entity. But there's really nothing keeping us from being our higher self.
That's right. Because if it's the higher self, then it's still the self. And so who else could it be? It must be you, right? And at some point in your life, who you are now is the higher self that you were hoping to become. And so as you continue progressing in this process of realization of who you are, because you're not becoming anything, all you're doing is realizing it. And so as you continue in that progressive realization and open up more and more and more to the true self within you, you look back and that light behind you doesn't look quite as bright, but at one point that was your higher self. And you continue this progressive movement of moving deeper and deeper and deeper into that radiant light of creation. So yes, totally. And thank you so much for your kind, beautiful words. And you are truly a radiant person, and the name of your astrology practice is quite appropriate. So I love you very much.
Oh, I love you too, James. And I just want to make sure everybody knows you have more than one name. It's not just James. His name is James David Wade, and you can find him at the website is Astrology, AUSTR, or no, or
it's ASTRAULOGY, because AU is the chemical symbol for gold, and so that's why I use that as my website name.
Okay, so it's AU. Let me see. I put it in the chat box. ASTRAULOGY. Okay, and it's actually, and you have the name of it on Facebook is The Golden Path, right? Which I love.
Yes, that's correct. Which is connected to the idea of the sun and the realization that we're all on the golden path, but the path itself becomes gold as we walk upon it, because we are the gold, and everything we touch turns to gold. So.
And you're doing it. Let me see. What's your special offer? You have an offer that, again, all the offers are in the PDF, and this is a way that you can support these astrologers or just learn more about them. What are you offering? I can't remember.
Well, my special offer was or is $15 off a 90-minute session of spiritual self-discovery and energy healing, and whatever else it is that we get into so that would be $75 rather than $90.
Oh yes, perfect. And I highly recommend James's sessions. Just be sure you can take the rest of the day off. At least that's what happened with me, because I needed to just like lay down and integrate all that energy. And yeah, it was a beautiful experience, and I appreciate it. I want to thank all of my guests. I want to thank you for bringing your light. I want to thank you for trusting me, and for creating this space. I know that you have like such a beautiful light, each and every one of you. So I'm so honored that you joined me. I'm so honored to know you and that you're all in my life. If it's okay, I'm gonna like turn the cameras on so we're like all Brady Bunch, and we can say goodbye. I don't know if you can unmute yourselves or whatever. But happy Equinox, everyone. I hope you can continue to connect with us in the Radiant Astrology Tribe on Facebook. And either way, have a beautiful equinox, have a beautiful, blessed spring season. And just wishing you so much love. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all
for joining.
Bye.
Okay, great. Let me turn off the recording.